This is the Sales Gravy Podcast. I'm Jeb Blount, best-selling author of Fanatical Prospecting, Sales EQ, Objections, and Inked, and I'm here to help you fill up your pipeline, close bigger deals, and rock your commission check. On part 4 of my conversation with Jeff Kahn on sleep and sales performance, we talk about the bad things that can happen to you when you don't get enough sleep. And this is something you're going to want to pay attention to. Before we get into this, though, I'm excited to tell you about my brand new book, Virtual Selling. Now, this book is a book that you want to read right now because the world has changed and salespeople need to know how to use virtual channels in order to connect with prospects and close deals. And in this book, I give you everything that you need to know to outgun your competitors on virtual sales calls. You can pick it up right now on Kindle, on iBooks, and on Google Play. Now, here's my conversation with Jeff Kahn on the bad things that happen to you when you don't get enough sleep. Well, let me give you another example of what happens to your brain when you don't get enough sleep. So, and this happened to me yesterday. So Saturday night, I was up at my cabin up in the mountains, and the reason that I was there was to be alone and to work on this book that I've got to turn in a couple of weeks. And it's a heck of a project because I've got to write 60,000 words in 30 days.
Oh, yeah.
So crazy. And this is what, it's what
No
you do
small
when you do crazy stuff. So I got there on Tuesday. I've been just pumping things out. And on Saturday, I was like, I'm going to watch a movie. So I put on, I think, Ford versus Ferrari. And I started watching the movie, but I didn't turn the movie on until like 9:00. So at midnight, I'm still watching this movie, and I didn't get to bed till 1 because I lay down in the bed and I read something or what have you. And I woke up the next morning, and I think I only got about 6 hours of sleep on Saturday night. So yesterday morning, I woke up and I sat down at my computer to start writing this book, and I just couldn't get into it. Like I just lost my passion for it. I couldn't find the words. I was skipping around from like one paragraph to another, trying to find something that I could get interested in. And finally, I just like, screw it. And I went and did something mundane. I cleaned the kitchen because I just my brain couldn't function. And it was all because I didn't have enough sleep. I just lost interest in it. And you imagine that as a salesperson, the thing that you have to be passionate about, enthusiasm and confidence and passion for your product and what you do. If you don't have enough sleep, it's hard to maintain that level of interest and the things that you're doing.
I mean, your brain, if you again, as you're sleeping, if you image what happens to a sleep deprived brain, what happens is basically all the connections between the brain just stop. And so like what you're saying is your brain basically stopped functioning. That is what's happening. And so, this isn't just how you feel. This is really, what scientists have shown over the last 100 years. I mean, and it's shocking to me that it's not more talked about. It's not more well-known. It's not something that everyone automatically prioritizes. And I think it's, the fact that the average amount of sleep we're getting is around 6 hours per night. That's the average in the country. So it's just shocking. And, something that hopefully folks listening to this can start to prioritize and take seriously, and not only for their work, but just for their lives as well.
So, we start thinking about, I'm going to get you to roll through a couple more things with me, but let's just think about this real quickly about what we've talked about. So we know that the emotional experience that you give people matters more than anything else, matters more than anything you're selling. It's about how they feel about you. And that's whether you're selling over the phone, you're selling in person, you're selling via video calls. It doesn't make a difference. Even, by the way, on email, they can tell the difference, or text messaging. So that matters. You've mentioned empathy a couple of times. Empathy is the meta skill of selling, and that is the ability to step into other people's shoes. And so the higher up you get on the sales cycle, the complexity, what have you, the more empathy matters. And it's not just empathy, it's the ability to manage empathy and outcome at the same time, something we call dual process. And that's a very difficult, very challenging thing to do. And if you're tired, almost impossible. Emotional intelligence matters. That is simply your ability to manage and control and rise above your own emotions, and then sense other people's emotions, step into their shoes, and then respond appropriately to those emotions. Sales EQ, or sales-specific emotional intelligence, is the ability to do that and move towards outcomes. Very difficult to do when you're tired, when you don't have to sleep, you don't feel good. Before we move on, what are some of the other bad things that happen to human beings over time when you're not getting enough sleep, that maybe go beyond sales? But I just want to get everybody's attention to talk about what can go wrong in your body and in your life if you don't get enough sleep.
Yeah. So when you don't get the sleep you need, pretty much everything that can go wrong in the body does. And I think this is hard for people to think about because, you're alive every day and everyone's not getting enough sleep. That's a relatively new phenomenon. Okay. For the past couple millions of years of all of, human history and animal and plant history, sleep has been evolving and it happens in pretty much every living thing we know about. And so it's not this, thing that you need to cut short. What happens is as you cut it short, every part of your body just falls apart. And so think about it this way that, that the sleep that you get is really what allows you to be active during the day. And that is the most important thing. And so when we think about pretty much all chronic diseases, that rises through the roof. When we look at life expectancy, you're literally going to die sooner when you think about any quality of life metric that you might care about. So, I mean, this could be, skin health and acne. It could be libido. It could be metabolism. You care about losing weight. I mean, just on the metabolism side, if you get 4 hours of sleep a night for 5 nights, your metabolism goes from regular level metabolism to someone with type 2 diabetes. Again, from like regular healthy to like clinical levels that there's something wrong. Same thing goes for anxiety. If you're someone that is normally feeling pretty good, not really anxious, if you go and go without a night of sleep, you about 50% of people will go from feeling normal to again having clinical levels of anxiety. And so you'll see that pattern just over and over that if you get less sleep, you can go from feeling totally normal to having a clinical problem. And so even when you have, you're thinking that things aren't going well, you're depressed, your mood state isn't right, you're not happy, it can be really hard to just focus on the basics of getting enough sleep. And obviously, there's a lot more you should do out of than just getting sleep. But what we do know is that that's pretty much going to help anything that you're working on. And so while it is this huge claim of like, if you just get sleep, everything in your life is better. Like I realize that's like almost a crazy thing to say. And there's almost nothing else in life that does that. But with sleep, it's the one thing that is true. It's the one thing that we have 100 years of scientific evidence on. It's the one thing that, if you were to imagine this as a drug, we have more evidence on this drug than any other drug ever in all of human history. I mean, you got to remember that the first sleep lab started before we even had antibiotics. So we've known a lot about this. And if you were to sort of visualize how you break down your time, I mean, sleep is by far the biggest category of where your time goes throughout your life. And so it behooves all of us to learn about it, to invest in it, to make it a priority. And it'll be overnight, you will feel better and you'll be able to perform at a higher level. And it's just, you just have to start paying attention to it in the right way.
I think it was, I'm going to paraphrase Joe DeCina from Spartan Races, but I think that he said something like, you may live by the model, I'll sleep when I die, but if you do that, you'll probably get to the grave way faster.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not only will you get to the grave way faster, but your life is just going to be less enjoyable. So it's a short term, getting less sleep is basically just short term greedy optimization. It's not what you want to be doing over the course of a lifetime. And if you get more sleep, and it's that simple, although hard to do, as you mentioned, Jeb, even though all the benefits, you're still struggling, as many of us are. It's pretty night and day overnight thing.
Thank you again for joining me for episode 3 of my conversation with Jeff Kahn on sleep and sales performance. And I hope that this episode inspires you to go get some sleep. Now, I want you to go to Amazon, to Barnes & Noble, to Google Play, wherever books are sold, and go pick up a copy of my brand new book, Virtual Selling. You can download it as an ebook right now. This book will give you a competitive edge, and it will show you exactly what you need to do to hold video sales calls that wow your customers and help you close the deal. That's Virtual Selling. Go get it right now.